Welcome to Super Slide 75 movie reviews with a twist, and I'm going to review the movie Hereditary. It's been gaining a lot of steam and a lot of press as one of the better, or probably one of the best horror flicks to come out in the last few years, along with the Conjuring series, things of that nature. So let's get into Hereditary. So we have the first opening scene is an obituary about Claire. Claire is the matriarch of the family, the grandmother, okay, per se. So now they're at their funeral, and the weird thing is the granddaughter named Charlie. Okay, so pay attention to Charlie. The mother be Annie, and then Steve is the husband, and Peter's the son. Okay, so during the viewing or the proposal, the granddaughter Charlie touches the lips of the dead grandmother, and then there's also a shot of the grandmother wearing a particular sigil, a necklace around her neck. Okay, so now going into it, Charlie, the granddaughter, has a nervous tick. She likes to click. She makes these clicking sounds, like she makes these sounds. Okay, so keep in mind throughout the movie, they will reference this clicking sounds throughout the entire film. She also has a peanut allergy. That's another key point to keep in mind as well. So now, first clue that something is awry or amiss is the daughter Annie goes to a grievance counseling session, and in that session she reveals that her family has a history of mental illness, schizophrenia, dual identity disorders. She said her mother suffered from that and schizophrenia. She said the father had dementia or some form of schizophrenia. The brother also had issues. Now she said, during the session, she, like I said, she revealed a lot about her father and her brother. They both died under kind of suspicious means and ways. And so now we move forward. The daughter Annie's going through her mother's books. She finds a note. The note from the mother, Claire, is asking the daughter for forgiveness and that the sacrifice would be worth it. She found this note in a book of spiritualism. And so now, to give a little history of Annie, she makes these little miniature sets, these little miniature scenes, right? So you would give her a picture and she would recreate the scene in a miniature form, okay? So now there was a miniature scene of when Annie had given birth to Claire, but the grandmother Claire, giving birth to the daughter Charlie, okay? Now, what ended up happening was Claire, the grandmother, was so possessive of Charlie that it was Claire that breastfed Charlie and not the mother Annie. Annie had revealed that also during the group session, the counseling session, that the grandmother, her mother Claire, was so obsessed with Charlie, she wouldn't let Annie feed Charlie. She would do that, but it wasn't revealed until the miniature scene that when she meant by feeding her, she was actually Claire was the one actually breastfeeding Charlie when she was an infant. Okay, so now then we move on to the next scene. There's a triangle on the floor of the grandmother's room because the grandmother died at the home with Claire and Steve, her husband. Okay. At one point, when Charlie's in school, Charlie sees a dead bird, cuts off the head of the dead bird because she makes these weird little caricatures with metal and string, like these little wooden figures. It's kind of different. Okay. Now, also during the counseling session, that Annie stated that her brother, during one of his psychotic breaks, had said that somebody was trying to put people inside of him. Now, that could be in reference to possession, but we don't know until further on down into the movie, okay? Now, at one point, there's this blue light that makes several appearances and kind of sets off the people being set in a trance. So, during a school session, Charlie sees a blue light and goes outside of her home and sees a vision of her grandmother, Claire, sitting in front of a fire, okay? Let's see. So then at some point, okay, so the brother, Charlie's brother, his name would be Peter. Peter wants to go to a party. The mom says, take your sister. Okay, so uh, Peter takes the sister to the party with him. Mind you, these are like teenagers, and she's like a 13-year-old kid at this party, so she's in the awkward phase. Now, there's cake. Someone made cake, and they chopped up peanuts in the cake, unbeknownst to Charlie, because, like I said, Charlie has a peanut allergy. So while the brother Peter's upstairs smoking weed, whatever, Charlie comes upstairs and says, hey, I don't feel good. She starts having an allergic reaction. Her throat starts closing up because she can't breathe. So now, on the road, on the way to the hospital, okay, Peter is driving at a high rate of speed. Charlie is in the back, literally asphyxiating. She can't breathe. She opens the window to put her head out the window to get air. Subsequently, Steve swerves to avoid a dog in the road. And during the swerve, as he recovered the vehicle, he comes close to a pole. And subsequently, Charlie's head hits the pole, and her head goes flying off. Peter then stops the vehicle. He's literally just stuck. He doesn't know what to do. So what ends up happening is Peter actually drives the car home with the headless body. Keep in mind, you will see headless bodies throughout this theme as well. To the home. Peter literally goes upstairs, still in a trance, and lays down. It wasn't until the next morning that the mother decides to go out for go shopping that she sees her daughter's or Charlie's lifeless, headless body in the vehicle. Didn't see that one coming. Not at all. Okay, also, after Charlie's funeral, you see the word Zazas is written above Annie's bed in the room. So then, moving forward, the son, Peter, starts to have similar attacks, similar to what Charlie had, and a peanut allergy attack. He starts not be able to breathe. He's smoking weed with his friends. He starts to have a similar attack, like the spirit of Charlie's around him, like he's having these allergic attacks. Okay. Now, at some point, Annie, the mother, starts sleeping in the treehouse. Okay. So then the next scene, Annie meets a lady named Joni, and they talk. So what ends up happening is while Joni's talking with Annie, there's a clover, or like a flower, a little bitty flower that falls out of the mouth of Annie. And if you blink, you'd miss it. Okay, but that has something to do with it down the road. Okay, so then Annie, during her depression, makes a miniature scene of of Charlie's death. There's a light pole, the car with the headless body, and then the head on the ground. And then, you do a flashback scene where Charlie's head is covered in ants on the side of the road. This is also going to come back and pay us a visit as well. So this is starting to take its toll on his marriage. Steve, the husband, believes she's slowly, falling into depression. So then Annie meets Joni again for the second time. And then Joni convinces Annie that she can communicate with the dead, that she did a seance, and that she should try it. So then Joni convinces Annie to come to her house, and then Joni proceeds to hold a seance to talk to her dead grandson Louis. And then things happen, glasses move, or whatever the case may be, and Annie flips out and leaves. Okay, so then now when Annie's driving home, she hears the clicking sound that Charlie likes to make. She hears that sound. Okay, also Steve is starting, not Steve, but the son Peter hears that sound too. Okay, so that lets you know that Charlie is always around at some point. Okay, so during a psychotic break that Annie has, ants appear in Annie's room. Okay, and then the ants lead a trail into Peter's room. Okay, and then Peter's body is covered in ants, but it comes to find out that Annie's having another psychotic break. And then, of course, Peter thinks his mom's trying to kill him because during a prior flashback, apparently the mom, Annie, has sleepwalking issues. And during the one sleepwalking episode, she attempted to set Peter on fire with paint thinner. Okay, and ever since then, the relationship between Annie and Peter has always been strained because of that. All right. So now, also after that psychotic break that Annie had, the term Liftoach Pandemonium is written on the wall of Charlie's death miniature scene. Okay. Also, now Annie somehow convinced Steve, her husband, and Peter to join her in a seance to communicate with Charlie. And subsequently, Annie becomes possessed by Charlie, and everyone starts flipping out. The son, Peter especially. So then Charlie, the spirit had scribbled a bunch of pictures of Peter on a notebook with all of Peter's eyes crossed out. This will come back in a later on scene as well. Okay, so then Annie tries to basically set the notebook on fire. And then while she did that, while the notebook is on fire, is burning in the fireplace, Annie subsequently starts to become engulfed in flames as well. So she pulls the book out, the notebook out of the fireplace, and then she puts herself out. Okay, so then Annie goes to see Joni. And then Joni doesn't answer the door, but the pullback scene from Joni's apartment, you see another sigil of Paimon, the same sigil necklace image that the grandmother Claire was wearing. Also, before Charlie's death, as they're driving down the road, you see a telephone pole with the same sigil carved into it as well. Okay, so now Peter's in school. And then Joni's across the street trying to warn Peter to get out for whatever reason. And then she says terms like Dagony, a paragon, and she tells him, he's in danger, whatever, whatnot. So then Annie goes up to the basement and discovers her mother's books and incantation books, her spiritual books, and all these books dedicated to Paimon the demon, King Paimon, mind you. Okay. And then it says she learns about Paimon covets and possesses male children. And then Annie finds Claire's headless body in an attic, in their home attic, and covered in the sigils of Paimon. Okay, so then Peter has another psychotic break in school where he breaks his nose. Her husband Steve thinks Annie dug up Claire's body. She convinces him to go up into the attic to look. He sees the body. He thinks she dug it up. He thinks she's crazy. And then Annie tries to convince Steve to burn the notebook, but Steve won't do it. So Annie throws the book in the fire. And as soon as Annie throws the book in the fireplace, Steve bursts into flames. Annie then sees this mysterious blue light and goes into an immediate trance. And then Peter wakes up after he comes back home from school after he breaking his nose because he was out on meds. He wakes up, goes into the living room and sees his dad's charred corpse remains, whatever. And then Annie's hiding up in the corner of the ceiling. So then Steve turns around and sees these naked cult members looking at him. So he runs out, and then Annie chases after Steve. Steve runs up into the attic. Steve then locks Annie out of the attic. He then sees this altar set up with these candles and then the outline of a body. And then he sees a picture of himself with his eyes cut out. Okay, so then he looks up and sees Annie, his mother, cutting off her head with a wire saw. It's pretty graphic scene. So then he sees naked dead cult members in the room, and then he jumps out the window. He then sees his mother Annie levitate into the treehouse. Steve then enters the treehouse, and then he goes up and he goes inside the treehouse. And then as soon as he enters the treehouse, you see cult members in the bowing position. And then he looks and sees the two headless bodies of Claire, his grandmother, and his mother Annie. And then he sees a picture of Claire, the grandmother, and it's said underneath Queen Lee. So obviously she was head of the coven of this particular cult, okay? So then there's Charlie's head on top of a mannequin with the crown, okay? And then is it the currency? Okay. Okay, so then what happens is this whole time Steve is pretty much in a trance. And so one cult member places the crown that was on Charlie's dead head onto Steve's head. And then the cult member gives an oath saying that the female version body was corrected. Now Paimon can enter in the correct form as a male. See it now when Annie had discovered her mother's books, it said that King Paimon would covets and possesses the body of a male. Same thing that happened to her father and her brother years ago. Okay, so then the church or the cult members all start shouting, "Hail Paimon, Hail Paimon," and pretty much the movie ends at that point. It was trippy. It was an experience. This might be like this is going to be an instant cult classic. It's going to make some money. It's making money at the theaters now. It was pretty good. A lot of things, if you're not aware of occulted symbols and signs, you would have missed it. The more interesting part of this particular movie is I'm focused in on is King Paimon. And who is King Paimon? King Paimon, also aka known as Paimon, appears in the Book of Incantations, the Munich Manual of Demonic Magic, the Clavis Infirmi, Discovery of Witchcraft, the Ars Scotia, the Lesser Keys of Solomon, the Magical Calendar, and Book of Spirits. In the Discovery of Witchcraft, he's listed as the power of air and has the 16th rank of thrones and subordinate to Corban and Marbus. In the Lesser Keys of Solomon, he is the servant to Lucifer and appears as a man sitting upon a camel wearing a crown. He can teach arts and science, gives good familiars, and is observed towards the west. So in the movie, they said they observed him in the northwest. Well, in actuality, he appears in the west. He also does give good familiars, like they stated in the movie. But in the movie, they said he covets and possesses male children, which in this instance he does not. The actual demon does not covet to possess anybody. Okay. Also, Paimon is associated with trumpets and cymbals. He commands 200 legions of spirits. If summoned by himself, you must make him an offering, and 2 kings named Labal and Abalim will appear along his side. Okay, his powers include knowledge of the divine, liberal sciences, and familiars. He has 6 personal servants: Alphasis, Basan, Belfirth, Belial, Rumbalance, and Spirion. Okay. If you choose to summon King Paimon, you must address him as King Paimon because he actually has the rank of King of Demons. He is a King Demon. Okay. And one must give an offering. King Paimon is one of the more friendly demons to work with if you choose to invoke him, and is really popular for beginning occultist practitioners. Okay. Paimon's zodiac position is 10 to 14 of Taurus. His tarot card is 6 of Pentacles. The planet associated with Paimon is Mercury. Let's see what else. The metal associated with Paimon is Mercury. His element is Earth. His plant is bindweed. The appropriate candles for summoning Paimon are black and dark blue. He is ranked number 2. He's in second mentioned demon behind Baal in the Ars Scotia, the 72 Demons book. Okay, and also in Persian, Paimon means oath or promise, and his colors are mainly gold and associated with Paimon. So that's my review of Hereditary and a little bit more further into the Paimon character itself. Actually, according to the director, it was a last minute change. They wanted to find a particular a new demon or something to go different with. They didn't want to go with the typical Satan Lucifer route or Baal route. They went with Paimon. So he was a last minute replacement in the script. So that's my review of Hereditary. I hope you guys liked and learned something and enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe, and once again, Super Sly 75 movie reviews with a twist. All right, until next time, you guys have a good one. Peace.